What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about who the mystery cameo could be in WandaVision Episode 9. Now, I know obviously Episode 6 just came out yesterday. I thought instead of doing a traditional kind of review, it was an episode that was really, really good. I loved it. It wasn't maybe as good as Episode 5, but it was still very, very much up there. I was like into it every single second. But instead of talking about that, which I pretty much just recapped it for you right there, I want to look like I normally do to the future. I want to talk about, what Episode 6 was, I guess spoilers without really spoiling it is really setting up the next 3 episodes to be something I think is going to be really, really big. Now, we kind of knew that. We kind of knew to expect that. But I think Episode 6 fully started to put that in motion. And again, I guess to do spoilers, I mean, obviously learning a little bit more about Quicksilver, but still being pretty darn confused as to what exactly is going on with him. That was a big part of the episode. And obviously ending with Wanda pretty much expanding the radius of her, fake city was pretty much the biggest part, right? So obviously things are coming to a head. And, the thing with that big cameo continues to bug me in a good way, by the way. I really would like to predict it before it happens. We know, now, so many actors and actresses are saying so many different things, sometimes I lose track of it. I think Paul Bettany is the one who said, some of the fan theories for this show are correct. And he doesn't say which ones, but some of them are correct. He also knows specifically, so Vision, Paul Bettany, the actor of Vision, he has said that he has a dialogue, or he has a scene with somebody in the final episode that is somebody who I believe the quote was, who he's always wanted to work with. It's a really big name. We know from Elizabeth Olsen that there is going to be a cameo that rivals Luke in The Mandalorian, and that's not Quicksilver. That's not the X-Men version of Quicksilver. That's not who she was talking about. So that has always bugged me again in a positive way. I want to go over a couple different options. I mentioned them briefly in the review last week, but I want to break down a few of them. Okay, the first one is Doctor Strange. And now the issue, we can talk about pros and cons of each of these things happening. I think it makes a lot of sense for Doctor Strange to, be present in the show at some point. Again, obviously the ending makes sense as well. I don't know if that is as big as we think. Also, I guess, before we go too much further, it is important to note that technically the actor or actress that Paul Bettany is talking about doesn't have to be the cameo that Elizabeth Olsen is talking about. So they're both talking about, big things, but they don't have to be talking about the same person. They could actually be talking about 2 separate things. So that is definitely an important, basically, distinction to realize. Doctor Strange makes sense. He would be big. Makes sense because this is probably going to go into Spider-Man 3, and then right afterwards, Doctor Strange 2. So, you could see it. I just don't know if it would be a big thing. But speaking of big, and speaking of Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, I do want to bring that up. Now, I had always kind of laughed that off as a joke when people say, him being Spider-Man. I feel like the reason is simply because of it goes into, we know no matter what happens in the show, the universes are going to get messed up rather royally, and that it's going to lead into, that the consequences of that are going to appear in Spider-Man 3. Okay, that's pretty much what we know. And I guess it's not technically confirmed. It's just what we all very much assume. It's what a lot of insiders has said. So I guess that's where the Tobey Maguire thing comes from. Another popular one is Magneto, which would be Michael Fassbender's Magneto. I get that's a thing where they did mention their parents, okay, where they mentioned their parents in this episode 6, but I don't know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously she's there for Vision. Quicksilver being there is obviously quite a big deal, but I don't really think they care too much about anything. I don't think anybody really cares too much about the parents in this situation. So, while it would be cool to see his vision of Magneto, I just don't, and also, let me say this, too, just for, clarity. To bridge the X-Men with the MCU, you've already done that. You just did that with Quicksilver. So, I feel like having Magneto would have also done that, where it's they brought in her dad, and this guy is we don't know who he is. Michael Fassbender doesn't exist in the world that the MCU is set in. They must have taken him from a different world. Right? I'm waiting for them to do that with Quicksilver. Say, who is this guy? Right? Because they recast, or they think that she's recasted, but nobody's looked him up and said, he doesn't exist as a person in our world. He's from somewhere else. And again, they've done some pretty confusing things, I would say, about Quicksilver overall, I think, just to kind of throw us off. So Magneto would be amazing. I love Michael Fassbender. I love that version of Magneto a ton. I think he was heavily underused. I actually think it's criminal what they did to him in the X-Men movies as they went on, because he was probably the best character and they did the least amount with him, at least the last 2 movies. So that would be a big deal, but I just don't really feel like it's necessary. And again, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's just something with me. I want to bring in 3 more, and this will end the video. 3 more. 2, and really all 3 of them I think are very, very big stretches, and some of them I have no idea how you'd even be able to pull it off. I've said this before, when Elizabeth Olsen says it rivals Luke, to me, the only characters that can do that are Tony Stark and Captain America. That's it. And I don't, so I've been saying that for a couple weeks. I don't think they would come back. I don't think that makes any sense. One of them is dead. The other one is aged, and you've already, the Russo brothers have already done stuff with that, so I don't know if you really touched that, right? Though, I don't know, like, obviously, it doesn't have to be them and still makes sense to Elizabeth Olsen that it, like, compares to Luke. Who knows, maybe she really was talking about Quicksilver this whole time. But in reality, I think these 2 characters are easily, and I think Robert Downey Jr. being number 1 are the biggest names that you can think of. So one thing I want to say, and this will be the 3rd and final character, okay? This doesn't fulfill Paul Bettany's, what he said, his quote, is Thanos. Now, I just thought this up probably like 10 minutes before I recorded this video. This one's interesting to me because I don't really think, again, it satisfies either of their quotes. I don't think Thanos coming is like 100% equivalent to like a Luke cameo. I also don't think it fills, Paul Bettany's, quota of working with somebody who he's always wanted to work with, when technically he did work with Josh Brolin in, Infinity War when Thanos killed him, right? So it doesn't exactly fit, but hear me out. They have done stuff now a couple different times in the show where they are bringing in flashbacks, to bringing in different ways of showing things, right? We've gotten already with Quicksilver and with Vision the kind of flashes very briefly of seeing them dead, okay? Now, with Quicksilver, it was still him. It wasn't the MCU version of him, you know what I mean? But we did get to see that, and also in this episode, in like the recap, we did get to see a scene from Age of Ultron. Now, Vision is starting to realize in this episode that he's dead. Now, he didn't really go too far with that besides trying to escape and then, being pulled back in. But he basically found out that he's dead. And I'm sure he'll try to investigate that over the last 3 episodes. I could see, and I'm not guaranteeing this, I would never bet money on this, none of that stuff, but I could see it possible that it eventually works its way to Thanos. I mean, really, if you think about it, Wanda is in this situation because Thanos did this. I mean, it literally drove her to insanity, and I mean, she literally said in this episode, she admitted, right, of how kind of depressed and how just sad she was, and that's kind of how, she doesn't know exactly how it all started, but she knows her, state of mind when it all started. But if Thanos didn't do that to Vision, then none of this would happen. Vision now knows he's dead, which means Thanos will be brought up. Now, Thanos was already brought up. He was brought up, kind of in the outside world, talking about how Wanda was basically about to kill him. We got that nice little, like, Easter egg, right? Kind of what all of us have always thought. So we have heard him. We've heard Ultron's, name before, but I do think Thanos will probably be brought back up at some point in the next 3 episodes. Now, again, do we get like a flashback where we see it again? Does she imagine Thanos? Does he actually come? Like, those are kind of things that I was like kind of clever, different kinds of ways of bringing him back. I'm not saying he's literally going to invade this fake town and just like stroll right in, right? It's just like Thanos, like he's returning. I'm not saying that, but I do think it's possible. I would honestly say that's more possible than the idea of Tony or Steve Rogers. But at the same time, like, again, nobody's really saying that those 2 would come back. I just keep going back to, if it's going to rival Luke, it needs to be a big name. And really, I mean, it could be anybody. I really think you throw those 3 out. Magneto makes sense, but I don't really know how big that would be. The Spider-Man kind of thing, that would be odd. Doctor Strange makes sense, but again, like, that's not the biggest thing. Like, he's a great character. I love his character, but I don't know, like, if he shows up, it'll be like, oh, that's cool, you're getting us right for the movies, but it's not a major thing. I guess, like, Johnny Storm, I know some people have thrown in, like, John Krasinski. Seems like kind of a lot of people's, assumption that he is going to appear there. That would be a big thing, but I don't know if that is fulfilling, again, either of their, is Paul Bettany like The Office fan? You know what I mean? Does he, like, really interested in that? So there's definitely different ways of it going, and it'll be very, very interesting to see where these last 3 episodes go. So let me know in the comments below, guys, who do you think will it be? Do you think it'll be multiple people? Do you think it'll just be one? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. I do a brand new video every single day on this channel, and so I hope to see you guys for tomorrow's video.